alive as they've beaten the Eagles now 20-17. We'll get to that shortly. Welcome those viewers who watched that game, and also welcome aboard to those who watched Seattle host Green Bay. And the Seahawks have won that 24-13, an 11-point win. They had the ball late and they just ran out the clock as the Seahawks win by 11 over the Packers. You know, the Indianapolis and before that the Baltimore Colts, just about everybody had a tough time going down to the Miami Orange Bowl to play the Miami Dolphins. But the Orange Bowl isn't there anymore. At least it is, but the Dolphins don't play there. And it seems to be all different in Joe Robbie Stadium. Just ask the Indianapolis Colts. And by the way, I know it's snowing in some parts of the country. This is Florida, southern Florida, Joe Robbie Stadium, in case you forgot what that looked like. Dan Marino, 9-0 lifetime against Indianapolis in the first quarter. First pass was incomplete, but then a 47-yard gain on this pass interference against Terry Wright.
Good play by the DB because it would have been a touchdown had he not interfered with him and brought him down.
Colts chalking up the penalty yardage today. In the first quarter, Miami looked like they were cruising because Marino hit one of his bevy of tight ends. Dan, that's not Don, it's Dan Johnson. Touchdown. The Dolphins led at 14-0. But if you look carefully, Marino would throw for under 200 yards and less than 50%. That says something right there. Second quarter, Eric Dickerson got going with the horseshoe on his helmet. Had over 100 yards, but was the GOAT last week. This week, a different story. 4-yard touchdown. First as a Colt, 154 in all. It's 14-7 Dolphins. Gary Hogeboom gets the start. He is healthy now in place of Trudeau. And Hogeboom went to his wide receiver, Billy Brooks, for a 7-yard touchdown to tie the game at 14 in the second quarter. Same score in the second quarter. Marino looks for Troy Stratford. But Cliff Odom is there, makes the hit. Dwayne Pickett, an up-and-coming linebacker indeed, picks up the football, makes a nice return for the Colts, sets up a Piasucci field goal. He had 4 on the day. Late in the half, Miami gets some help from the receivers. Look at the dive by Bruce Hardy, and then watch James Pruitt. One hand, this reception, set up a touchdown. The Dolphins led up 21-17. But with the score 21-20, biggest play of the game in the third quarter. Lorenzo Hampton looking to go in. Boom! He is hit right there by Byron Darby. Fumbles the football. Nesby Glasgow recovers. Last week, the Colts going in, fumbled for the win. This week, they make turnaround because Marino then is intercepted by Willie Tullis, and the Colts are in business. Turnovers hurting the Dolphins, and they cashed into Indianapolis. Albert Bentley on a 17-yard draw play. They led 33-21, and Ron Meyer and company go on to win big time down at Joe Robbie Stadium by a 40-21 count. And after the game, the starter reinstated, now that he's healthy, Gary Hogeboom, obviously all smiles.
I think the key thing is because it was 4-4 and everybody was up on top or down on the bottom. If you lose, you're on the bottom.
Beating the Dolphins down here in the new stadium, you know, it's great for our morale, great for our confidence. And as far as we're concerned now, you know, we're on the road. We're ready to play some football.
Well, I think the victory down here proves that we're a playoff caliber team.
And so, Ron Meyer and the Indianapolis Colts with a win. And let me just tell you this stat, okay? Indianapolis and Baltimore 3-15 at the Orange Bowl, 1-0 at Joe Robbie Stadium. The Buffalo Bills 2-18-1 in the Orange Bowl, 1-0 in Joe Robbie Stadium. I'll tell you what, I know it cost them $100 million, Axe, but Joe Robbie ought to consider burning up the place and go back to the Orange Bowl where they used to beat these teams.
Might be a little financially disastrous to do that, but not a bad idea technically. And actually, Dolphin fans might appreciate it. It would give us more parking space next door at Calder Racetrack. And the way the Dolphins played today, 6 turnovers, you're better off at the racetrack, Dolphin fans. Whoever saw a horse fumble at the 16th ball?
Eric Dickerson was off to the races today, Tom, with the Sultan of Segway just joining us on this program. Dickerson this time was not any goat. He was a big hero.
Well, we talked a few weeks ago when the big trade was made about who got the best of it. I think the results are paying off quickly for Indianapolis. Last week, they lose the game because Dickerson fumbles from the 1. This week, he didn't fumble. You get the victory.
And the Colts now, one team 5-4. They break that log jam in the AFCs. The Dolphins fall to 4-5. Another team tied for last or first, depending on how you look at it, going into the day. The New York Jets, off their Monday night win over the Seahawks, they went into Kansas City to face a struggling Chiefs team that had lost 7 in a row and was starting Frank Sire at quarterback in the pouring rain. And it was a day for Noah, and the fans also came in twos. The Chiefs might have been better off to stay at home. First quarter, Frank Sire. Oh, look at this pass. It is raining, I understand, but yeah, that's an interception by Jerry Holmes, and New York turns that into a Pat Leahy field goal. But Kansas City's defense played well today also. with their excellent secondary, watching the Jet receivers. Ken O'Brien, nimble foot, looking. Now, you going to blame the sack on the offensive line?
I can't believe he doesn't throw the ball away. You get that much time, you got to figure out a way to throw the ball away.
Third quarter, 6-3 Chiefs lead. O'Brien scrambling, and this is a lateral, so it's a run by Freeman McNeil. 30 yards. He's down to the 5-yard line. And you think McNeil was upset being benched last week, Tom?
I think he has responded to being benched.
Yeah, 184 yards worth of response. 6-6 after that set up a Leahy field goal. Chiefs put together a drive on the next possession. But watch this. Herman Hurt's going to dribble it into the end zone, he hopes, but he is stopped at the 1-yard line. And then a 1-17 on 4th and goal from the 1. They're going to kick a field goal. Yeah, it gives them a 9-6 lead, but I mean, who cares? You're 1-7. Lowry converts, it's 9-6. But that would hurt because the only touchdown of the day scored on the next possession. O'Brien to Altoon, makes the move on Kevin Ross, and it's an 18-yard touchdown. Leahy goes on with another field goal, and the Jets beat the Kansas City Chiefs by a score of 16-9. Kansas City now falls to 1-8. They've dropped 8 in a row. The Jets are at 5-4 and tied with the Colts, first place in the wacky AFC East. When we return, we'll take a look at the University of Miami reunion. We'll take a look at what the Colts are doing for the first time in a while. Very fine, actually more than a couple. There are 3 very fine quarterbacks, University of Miami. 2 of them met head-on today at Cleveland as Jim Kelly of the Buffalo Bills met Bernie Kosar of the Cleveland Browns. And it's not a trip that's too long for Bills fans to make, and they went down to root on Mr. Kelly. And you did expect an aerial duel in Cleveland between the Bills and the Browns. Over 78,000 on hand to see Kelly and Kosar, and Bernie got the ball first. It was his turn first. Here he will just give it to Kevin Mack, but Cornelius Bennett says, hey, my second game of the NFL, I can force a fumble. Mark Kelso races like the racehorse, 57 yards. They, of course, this was the first thing that the Zebras looked at for about 5 minutes to try and confirm a fumble. Replay said it was a fumble, 7-0 Bills. Second quarter, Jim Kelly to Pete Metzelaars. He is nailed. Fumbles the football. Ray Ellis picks it up, and he will run down the field for 6 points. They look at the replay. They say, yes, that was a fumble indeed. And now, by this point, the Browns are leading 10-7. Then Kosar to Reggie Langhorne, 15-yard touchdown, 17-7 Browns at the half. You want to see a look and pattern work to perfection? Kosar to Webster Slaughter. Zip.
Great throw by Kosar, and the courage that Webster Slaughter shows going into the middle is something that a lot of receivers can learn from.
And the courage that he shows by showing this dance in the end zone is also unbelievable. 52 yards, 24-7 Browns. There are Kosar's numbers, 346 yards on the day. But Kelly and the Bills get a touchdown. And then late in the game, 2.5 minutes ago, Biner fumbles. John Kaiser recovers. They blow the ball dead, and then they rule that's an unsportsmanlike penalty there, and then everything breaks loose.
Yeah, there's no way. I think this all started because of the first call, and there's no way that's unnecessary roughness, because, I mean, this is not tiddlywinks. You're playing football.
This is one of the most humorous things you'll ever see. Gene Barth still explaining everything, and the Bills are going to run a play here. Gene, stop it. Get out of there. Gene, get back. Whoa. Kelly says no play. Bubba Baker says, ooh, thanks for telling me. Yes, it was kind of crazy at times. And then, of course, very late in the game, it was Kelly to Andre Reed. 3 Browns missed a tackle for the touchdown. Browns tried the onside kick but did not get it. And so Cleveland wins it. Kelly came back, made a statement for the Bills, but it was not enough as Cleveland beats the Buffalo Bills 27-21. The Browns now up to 6-3. The Bills fall to 4-5. You saw the numbers on Kosar with 346 yards. Kelly not quite as well. And I know you're still simmering, aren't you?
Well, watching the Metzelaars pass, if you got a quick look at that, it was obviously an incomplete pass. He didn't have possession. Fumble. The replay didn't work. Nothing worked. I think the only thing after watching the performance of Gene Barth and his crew in this game is we've got to get them out of the NFL and put them on the Supreme Court.
Fred Smerlis, the nose tackle of the Buffalo Bills, was also simmering after this game. Here are his comments.
Yeah, you know, it was a tough game. Kosar played well, but in all my years of playing, I think that was one of the more cheap shots thrown that game by the defensive backs that I've seen. And it's, you know, referees didn't call it. And once you let a game get out of control like that, they're going to keep cheap shot, and they did.
So not a very happy Fred Smirlis, and it was out of hand, and you hate to see that, the Browns winning the ball game. Meanwhile, down the road a piece from Cleveland in Pittsburgh, it was a battle of the other two teams that went into the day, 5-3 tied atop the AFC Central, the 5-3 Oilers at the 5-3 Steelers. Once upon a time, they used to say, the road to the Super Bowl goes through Pittsburgh. As we said on game day, it's a little bit different, but a first-place batter, and no better come through. That's faith from the fans, right? And the Steelers showed something early. Watch Ernest Gibbons get nailed by the secondary.
He's a Louisville graduate. We usually dish it out instead of taking it.
Oh, I see. After a 3-3 tie at the half, Warren Moon opened it up in the third quarter. Here he drops back, and we'll find the veteran Drew Hill for a 46-yard rainbow, and the Oilers are in business. A penalty set them back some, but then from the 11-yard line, remember this 10th-round pick from Northwestern, Curtis Duncan. 4 straight games now he has caught at least 1 touchdown pass, 10-3 Oilers, Chuck Noll simmering. And Mark Malone not simmering, 7 of 22, booed all day long, and threw passes like this, which Ray Childress wanted to paw down.
You know, he has a lot of problems. One of them is he doesn't put any arc on the ball. Gets a lot of them knocked down.
Tom, look at the Steeler coaching box. Oh, yeah. My God, I can't believe that. Well, Moon had no problems, though. 10-3 still, and once again, Drew Hill is wide open. Now, the Steelers secondary's had such a great year, but the rookie Delton Hall is getting beaten. And, you know, when your offense gets 3 points, it's tough.
It's hard to play defense when the offense is not responding. They kind of go hand in hand.
Fourth quarter, some fans were yelling for Warren Moon for Houston, and enter Bubby Brister. But he very quickly was doing the Brister stomp right there as Keith Bostic just nails him right there. That was not the Dovels. And then Bostic shows that he can intercept the ball as well. Brister's stats on the day, we completed 5, 2 of them to the Oilers. The passes went for 10 yards. That wasn't the answer either. And Brister afterwards, not pleased. And so the Oilers go on to beat the Steelers 23-3. And you got to wonder, where is Steve I've got you, babe, Bono, because I guess he is the next one left. Back to the Oilers, though. This is their 3rd straight road game. A team like this is not supposed to win on the road, but they do, and they're getting some help on the ground, Tom.
Well, the Oilers have obviously improved, and Moon playing much better, but I think that the thing that goes hand in hand, run game, pass game, Rozier is starting to respond with the good running that they thought he was going to give people a year or so ago, and Moon is also, like, paralleling that and playing well at the quarterback spot.
Next week, Cleveland at Houston, as both teams are 6-3 and tied atop of the division. An early look at who might come out on top in the AFC Central. All right, that sums up some of the ball games. We're only about halfway through NFL Primetime. Stay with us. We will look at some of the late contests when Jax, Axe, John, and yours truly return.
ESPN delivers hard-hitting action with NFL Monday. First, Monday Memories. Great games that have made Monday Night Football an American tradition. Then, the experts break down the coaches' game plans with an exclusive preview on the Zenith Monday Night matchup. Plus, Monday Night Magazine profiles the players in a final countdown to kickoff. Action as exciting as the game itself. NFL Monday at 7:30 Eastern, only on ESPN.
And welcome back to NFL Primetime. A reminder, coming up at the top of the hour at 8 Eastern Time, we will go live and watch the Raiders play at the San Diego Chargers, see if the Raiders can stay alive in that AFC West race, see if the Chargers are for real at 7-1. We'll be going at the Jack Murphy Stadium right after Primetime at the top of the hour. But it was a barn burner at Candlestick Park as the New Orleans Saints had something to prove against the San Francisco 49ers, who showed up as well today. It was a good ball game, and that's why we bring in John Saunders with his eye on the bay. John?
You will recall 3 weeks ago, Morton Anderson missed a field goal that would have won the game for the Saints over the 49ers. After the game, Jim Moore, the coach of the Saints, said, "We ain't good enough." And I quote, that's not bad grammar, that's exactly what he said. Once again, however, it would come down to Morton Anderson to decide this game. Joe Montana did not start. He had an injured knuckle. Steve Young started against Jim Moore's #1 defense. The Saints with an early 3-0 lead on their first possession. 49ers with their second possession. Steve Young slipped, then looks deep, unloads to Jerry Rice, who beats Brett Maxey. Touchdown, 46 yards on the play. Young does not return after that with a mild concussion. 7-3 was the score at that point. Second quarter, Montana comes in and replaces Young. This time he's intercepted by Dave Waymer. Waymer runs this one back. Saints have the ball on the 49ers' 23-yard line, but they falter and go for the field goal. Morton Anderson again hits this one 52 yards. Both interceptions resulted in field goals. Saints take the lead 9-7 at the half. Third quarter starts the Saints drive after the kickoff. Bobby Hebert with a sideline pass to Mike Jones. Tim McKyer can't hold on, and Jones breaks it loose, goes into the end zone for the touchdown, 43 yards. The Saints now lead it 16-7. San Francisco with good field position. Montana to Harry Sidney, who unloads this one to Jerry Rice, who is wide open. He goes 50 yards for the touchdown, 16-14 Saints with the lead. Reggie Sutton comes in, blocks his field goal attempt. Johnny Poe picks it up and takes it 62 yards for the touchdown, and the Saints comfortably on top, 23-14, but the 49ers come back. Close it to 23-17. Montana then to Ron Heller, wide open in the middle. He takes it across for the touchdown. The point after is good. 49ers up by 1, 24-23. There's 2 minutes left. Saints drive with 1:06 left. Morton Anderson just barely gets this 40-yarder to go through. He finishes with 4 field goals on the day, and the Saints go on to the 26-24 win. Morton Anderson, over the last 2 games against San Francisco, kicked 9 field goals. New Orleans Saints, maybe Jim Moore's a believer now. Meanwhile, Cincinnati facing Atlanta. No one wants to admit that they're Falcons fans lately. Why? Watch this offensive attempt. Scott Campbell to Gerald Ray, who hands off to Floyd Dixon. Escapes the tackle, back to Campbell again. Campbell goes deep, but there's defenders all over Matthews. The pass isn't even close. Atlanta's been outscored 76-3 in their previous 2 games. Lack of offense was contagious for Sam White and his team. The Bengals were on Atlanta's 15. Boomer Esiason will give to Ira Hillary, who's supposed to find Esiason now as the receiver. But Hillary is then brought down for a 23-yard loss. It was a comedy of errors. Not a good day for Esiason, as you can see. Intercepted twice. But Atlanta did break their scoring slump in the third quarter. Scott Campbell finds Floyd Dixon, who goes by Eric Thomas and rambles 44 yards for the touchdown. That ended 11 quarters, 10 minutes, 41 seconds of a touchdown drought for the Falcons, and they're on top 7-3. 23 seconds remaining in the game, 10-9 Falcons from the 3. Larry Kinnebrew bursts through for the game-winning touchdown, and it's the Bengals who pull this one out. 16-10 is the final in the game. The Bengals move up to 3-6. The Falcons now 2-7. And for a change, it was Sam White and the Bengals who are on the good end of a last-minute touchdown. Back to you.
We knew we had to get that one in there somewhere, and congratulations, they won it in the last minute. But the big game really was of those two, with the Saints and the San Francisco 49ers, because now we have a legitimate race out in the NFC West, and you know, the Niners now only lead the Saints by a game, Tom.
Well, I think 3 weeks ago we talked about how close the Saints were, and they talked about the fact this was a game that they had to win. I think the difference in this game is Montana plays the whole game. Maybe it goes 2 points the other way. With Montana not in there for a half, they're a team that has really come of age.
But one thing to note in the ball game by the Saints, once again, a big play by their special teams. They won the game against the Browns earlier in the year in the famed Pope Blessing game. And so the Saints, as Jim Mora 3 weeks ago, Axe said, we ain't good enough yet. Well, they may be good enough now.
Well, there's an old adage in wagering on anything, whether it be horse racing or humans, is never bet on somebody to do something they've never done before. So it's very hard to get excited about the Saints today because they've never been 6-3. They've also never been better than 8-8, never been in the playoffs. Well, all of a sudden, they're 6-3. That's 1 out of 3, and Jim Mora is a terrific coach. He might just get the other 2.
Yes, Jim Mora has proven his stock as a head coach before in the USFL, and now he's proving it in the National Football League. Kansas City Chiefs proving they have problems. Take a close look. When we come back, we'll look at more of the late games, and also a tussle in the Metrodome, where the Vikings are trying to throw homers against the Bucs. Stay with us. When the NFL schedule first came out, this was supposed to be Minnesota at Tampa Bay, but the World Series forced the Bucs and Vikes to shift home and home dates. This time it was the Bucs up north in the Metrodome, and it made it their 3rd straight road game. A lot of teams in that predicament today. Vinny Testaverde, we mentioned the other 2 Miami quarterbacks. Vinny has been riding the pines for good reason. Steve DeBerg been playing well, completes the first 5 passes, including touchdown to Gerald Carter. No, it's not a touchdown. He stopped just short. And so just a punch in, and the Bucs will lead But no, Jeff Smith is stacked up on the Vikes. He fumbles. Joey Browner made the hit. And so Minnesota takes over.
Teams that can't get it in from the one aren't going to be winners. We lost the Super Bowl doing that same thing.
You remember that game, huh? How bad was the Tampa running game? You saw 9 carries, 15 yards. That meant Steve DeBerg had to carry the load. And in the second quarter, he found Calvin McGee, who carried it into the end zone. 7-0 Bucs at this point. They lead it 7-6 at the half. Wade Wilson got the start, but he was yanked in the second half. Ineffective. Tommy Kramer started the second half, engineered a 57-yard scoring drive, ending in a Rick Fenny dive for a touchdown, 13-7. The Vikings got some bad news when DJ Dozier had to leave the game with a sprained ankle, never returned. After an exchange of field goals, Kramer looks for his tight end for Brown University, Steve Jordan. It's a touchdown, and the Vikings led it 23-10. The Buccaneers scored a late touchdown. There's Leif Erikson at the game, but it was the Vikings who beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-17. First touchdown pass, by the way, for Kramer since December the 14th. Darren Nelson had 103 yards rushing. We know we have a couple of games yet to show you highlights of, but without much further ado, he's been simmering since the start. We must check in with the Axe. How were you today, O Pundit?
I don't know if I'm simmering or boiling at the moment. My best bet today, the Bengals were favored by 5.5 points over the Falcons. Now, this game, as it was played, you saw a few of the highlights moments ago. This could have been made into the new movie, Less Than Zero. This was one of the most horrible exhibitions of football ever. All I wanted was like 2 boring teams to have a boring 12-10 result or something. No, the Bengals plunge over at the end. I'm Less Than Zero. Bengals win the game. Falcons are a loser. The Bills, on the other hand, getting 7.5 from the Browns, this was a poetic justice game. After the officials had done everything they could to rob the Bills, to mess up the game, to do everything, Cleveland still knew the old rule of football. Let's give them the old we don't care touchdown at the end. Bills scored it, covered the point spread, lost the game 27-21, a victory for the Axe. Now we come to, we've been talking in previous weeks about lessons to be learned from these tips. And the lesson that both the Swami and the Axe learned today is don't ever bet double digits. We both did it today. Horrible. Redskins laid 13. Forget about them. Won by 7. It was a horrible decision on my part. I deserved to lose that game. My preseason pick to win the division, the Oilers, they were getting 3.5 from the Steelers. They were taking the worst of it, the 3rd straight road game. I didn't care. They went ahead, a nice victory. Result, a 2-2 day. Season total, 18-12. I call it my 60% solution.
I call it a nice overture. 18-12, it is not bad. We learned that lesson the tough way, too, as well.
Was it a war, too?
I think so. We'll have to ask Francis Scott Key about that one. How did the Swami do today? Well, the Swami said Joe Klecko was back. Go with the emotional Jets in the pouring rain against Frank Sire. And the Swami started off nicely with the win by the Jets getting points. But, Axe, you are right. And we said we hated giving 13. We both did. We both lost. The Seahawks, it could have kicked a field goal at the end of the game, but they decided not to run it up, and so we lost. And the Browns, well, you won it. I lost it in the last minute of play. You knew a 27-7 lead was destined for an oh-by-the-way loser. And so a 1-2 day makes the Swami 10-8. There was not a war. There was not an overture, but that's the way it is. 10-8. It's better than 8-10. We'll try harder next week. And oh, by the way, the replacement Swami, Mr. Jackson, said New Orleans would win. And he was right. 1-0 lifetime. We'll be back with more right after this.
This portion of NFL Primetime is brought to you by the Acura Legend and Integra, exclusively at your Acura dealer.
We're waiting all week in Philadelphia for the Giants and the Eagles, and this is one situation where the game certainly lived up to its pregame billing. The Giants and Eagles, and it went right down to the wire because at the Vet, let's roll it. Giants and Eagles. Randall Cunningham, the man on the spot for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he certainly has delivered lately. There's no question about that. The Eagles' defense has been playing well also. And this is Randall Cunningham right here. Cunningham, everything going well. How good was Cunningham? Well, he completes passes to himself. That's right. He makes the reception, and it goes down as a completed pass for no gain. Cunningham gets the Eagles on the board. Instead of passing to himself, he runs it himself. And does he turn the corner? No one's going to get there. Touchdown, 7-0 Eagles. Cunningham into the end zone. Bill Parcells, boy, he is fast, isn't he? Both defenses played well. Joe Morris with the ball. Seth Joyner will pop him. Morris left, did not return, but X-rays negative on his shoulder. That's good news. Jeff Rutledge played all day at quarterback for the Giants. Here he hits Lionel Manuel wide open on a 36-yard touchdown pass. We are tied at 10. In the third quarter, after the Eagles picked off a Rutledge pass, it was Cunningham with a fake, gets Carl Banks up in the air, and then finds Keith Byers in the end zone, 8 yards. Boom! 17-10, Philadelphia. But the Giants come back with another big play of their own. Rutledge to Manuel. 44-yard pass. That looked like a beautiful pass down to the Eagle 22. A few plays later on 4th and goal. George Adams bangs off left tackle for the touchdown. And boom! We are tied at 17-all. Fourth quarter, Giants defense keeping them in. Cunningham off the play action, picked off by Perry Williams. And the Giants want to go for the lead. Midway through the fourth quarter, Raul Alegre, who had a 53-yarder earlier in the game for 52. Does it curve? Yes, it just skims the bar, goes in, hits 20-17 Giants. Eagles' last shot, 2-minute drill. They set up a Paul McFadden field goal from 39, but McFadden shanks it to the left. Bill Parcells says, we're doing the John Travolta. We're staying alive. And the Giants beat the Philadelphia Eagles 20-17 in a rock'em, sock'em defensive game that really the Eagles can't be ashamed of in losing, but the Giants, they got their win and their string. They're dancing on ice, but they stay in it.
Well, the world champs looked a lot more like the world champs today, winning another close one, which they won about 8 or 9 of last year. But I think the Philadelphia Eagles are so exciting. I think they're the team to watch. Buddy Ryan has them playing a lot like the Chicago Bears when they first started to develop that great defense.
At 3-6, the Giants go to New Orleans next. Then they go to Washington. It is rough, but then again, they ran off a string late last year, Axe.
Well, it will be rough. I still think they're a long shot to make
yes.
it. I was watching the Eagles. Like a lot of teams that are just developing, the Eagles need a few things. I think one of them is a field goal kicker. McFadden does not make big clutch kicks. The interesting guy in the Eagles, though, Elbert Fowles, a cornerback. He is early Everson Walls. Remember Everson Walls when he started with Dallas? He used to, he'd be out of position all the time, couldn't cover anybody, but so he'd get beat for a big game, but then the next time he'd be out of position, he'd get the interception. That's the way Fowles plays. He's exciting. He's part of Buddy Ball. I like him.
And those teams will probably get some good games that they're done. They play later on at the Meadowlands, but they can be excellent head-to-head in years to come. That's what I'm trying to spit out here. It has been a long day. Just stay with us. All right, at Seattle, the Seahawks at the Kingdome playing the Green Bay Packers. Let's take a look at what happened as the Packers came off that emotional effort but loss against the Chicago Bears last week, and the Seahawks were dead Monday night against the Jets. Dave Craig played poorly on Monday night. Wants to come back here, pitches to Kurt Warner. Ground chuck, yeah, I guess so. Warner could go all the way. 57-yard touchdown. Seahawks lead it 7-3. But on the next possession, the Packers were not very impressed. Randy Wright, who would get hurt late in the first half and leave the game with a bad knee, while he was in there, hit Keith Haskett. 47-yard touchdown. The Packers surprising, up 10-7. They lead on a Zendejas field goal 13-7, but the special teams gave up a touchdown last week to JoJo Townsell. You think Rusty Tillman, the special teams coach, was upset? Yeah. Burst blocks it. Eugene Robinson, touchdown, recovers 14-13 Seahawks. For the Packers, turnovers caught up with them, 5 of them today. Wright will break out of the pocket, but he's going to be caught right there by Jacob Green. Paul Moyer recovers the fumble, and that sets up a 3rd and goal situation just a couple of plays later at the 8-yard line for the Seahawks. And David Craig will roll right and keep rolling into the end zone. They led at 21-13 at the half, but all they could have was one Norm Johnson field goal in the second half, much of the chagrin of the Swami, and the final score was the Seahawks 24 and the Packers 13. We'll be back on Prime Time. We will take a look at the Raiders-Chargers tilt, our ESPN live game in a moment. First, this is the way they stack up in the AFC. Raiders at the Chargers coming up live at the top of the hour. And on game day this morning, Tom, we talked about the Raiders and their problems. Actually, Roy Firestone and John Matuzak did it in a piece that they did. And you were talking about Marcus Allen. I mean, here's a guy that's bread and butter, and he's averaging only 3.6 yards a carry.
Well, the Raiders have to get a lot more production from Marcus Allen. I think when you look at the Chargers and the Raiders, both of those teams are the kind of teams who do a lot of varying things. The Raiders are a power football team. They want to bully over you. And the Chargers have been traditionally a finesse football team. But both of these teams have the ability to make you adjust in what they do. And the way they do it, the Chargers like to do it with a lot of movement. Anderson here, they like to move their receivers around. They like to move backside of the backfield, put them in slot position. Here they run a quick screen with Anderson and actually get him in position to catch the ball before the defense has a chance to react to him. They like to do the same kinds of things with Lionel James. They take him, they run him out of the backfield. Here they motion him out of the backfield. And just as he gets right behind Chandler, Chandler moves down the field. You can only do this when you're close to the end zone. The defender is forced by the pick to run into the end zone about 5 yards before he can come back to the receiver. It results in touchdowns. Something I wish referees, the Zebras, would call a lot more than they do. Marcus Allen here showing his skill. He has the great eyes. He's not a real big back, so he doesn't power over a lot of people, but he has the great vision and the great eyes. He's quick to the hole. He's carrying the ball there, not the way you would teach it to your son, but he gets the job done. And then Bo Jackson is Bo Jackson. And I think even though we've only seen him a little bit, Bo Jackson has the ability to do what only he can do. He runs right through the first tackle. You have to have great power to do that. And then he turns on that 4.1 or 4.2 speed, and you just see him blow by 5 or 6 defenders. And if he can do that for the Raiders, he's going to be involved in the game a lot more than any other back since Marcus Allen's been there.
You were talking before about the Raiders now. This is a game they got to have. They're 3-5. Yeah. And just as the Giants had to have that game to stay alive, the Raiders are skating on that thin ice, too. Does it come down to attitude tonight? Yeah,
well, you know, we were talking before, and I made my one pick today on the Saints. But I think a lot of times you get a feeling about a game. And in the AFC West, a lot of times you get a feeling about what's going to happen. The Chargers with 7-1 record, the Raiders just barely breathing. But I have a feeling that the Raider attitude, that bully attitude, is something that the Chargers still haven't gotten over the hump on.
The Chargers do lead everybody in the AFC by 2 games going into this weekend's play. Now, Axe, you're already on record. This is your rubber game now. You're 2-2.
That's
you're
right.
A Raider
This is
man.
my key game. The Chargers are 3.5. I have the same feeling based on a number of other things in addition to the gut feelings of an old linebacker. But I'm sticking with the Raiders. I'll be rooting hard for them. And I know one thing. I don't happen to have a son, but I have a daughter. And even if she doesn't carry the ball like Marcus Allen, I'd like her to endorse checks like he does.
An old linebacker. You may have to settle this thing up. We will do that during the first half off camera, of course. And so stay here on ESPN because at the top of the hour, Raiders at the Chargers. We'll be back on Primetime to wrap things up. Review of the day. Stay with us.
They made it all the way to the Final Four last season, and the Runnin' Rebels of UNLV look strong again. See them take on the Soviet national team live on ESPN.
ESPN's NFL Primetime has been brought to you by Slim Jim, America's favorite meat snack. Now in the snack section of your supermarket. And by Mazda, bringing performance and value together. That's the Mazda way.
All right, down from the sky boxes, down to the lows here. Chris Berman wrapping up Week 10 afternoon play. Let's take a look at the scores. At Cleveland, the Bills made a comeback, but not enough. Cleveland wins 27-21, so they move on to their next game at Houston, top of the Oilers in first at 6-3 in the AFC Central. At New England, Herschel Walker 60 yards in overtime, and the Cowboys beat the Patriots 23-17. At Washington, Doug Williams replaces Jay Schrader. Redskins struggle, but beat the Lions 20-13. At Pittsburgh, big second half for the Houston Oilers. They are 6-3 also. They win at Pittsburgh 23-3. At St. Louis, Mike Lansford, field goal at the gun, gives the Rams a rare win, 27-24 over the Cardinals. Indianapolis Colts rarely win in Miami, but they're 1-0 lifetime in Joe Robbie Stadium. They win over the Dolphins big, 40-21. Marino under 200 yards. At Minnesota, the Vikings beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-17. At Kansas City in the rain, only one touchdown score. That was O'Brien to Tune. Jets beat the Chiefs 16-9. Morton Anderson 4 field goals as the Saints win at Candlestick over the 49ers. 26-24. They're just one game back now of the Niners in the NFC West. At Atlanta, Bengals score in the last minute to win. Cincy's 16-10 over the Falcons. The Giants hold on to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. McFadden misses a field goal last seconds of the game. Giants win 20-17. And at Seattle, the Seahawks, in kind of a ho-hummer, beat the Green Bay Packers 24-13. And don't forget, the L.A. Raiders and the San Diego Chargers coming up in just a couple of moments live from Jack Murphy Stadium, as then Week 10 officially comes to a close as far as Sunday is concerned. And so, I don't know if we undid the log jam after today and some of the division. I mean, not everybody's 4-4 still in the AFC East, but still a lot of questions to be answered, Tom.
Well, a lot of questions to be answered. The thing I was most impressed today, the changing of the guard between the running backs. Charlie White with the Rams had a career day. Eric Dickerson now with the Colts, running like Eric Dickerson, and Herschel Walker getting the starting nod and making it happen for the Cowboys.
All right, we should remind you that Tom Jackson, Pete Axthelm, and yours truly, Chris Berman, will be by at halftime as we'll take a look at what is going on. That wraps up Primetime, so thanks for watching, and also a goodbye for now from John Saunders. But right now, we have a situation where we must go out to Jack Murphy Stadium, and we are ready to do that as Mike Patrick is standing by to call the game with the Chargers and the Raiders, along with Roy Firestone and John Matuzak. Mike.
This is Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego, home of the amazing Chargers, and a record crowd is here this evening to watch the division leaders face their arch rival, the L.A. Raiders.